Boom. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the funding webinar. This is a record. I mean, this is like a full house here. Fun fact, we got so many people registered for this webinar. I actually had to go to Zoom and pay an extra $50 to allow more people into the Zoom room because our limit was 100. And we broke 100. We got 108 people sitting right now. So thank you guys. That is a record for 2025. Let me turn off the, yes, let me turn off the people like money, I guess. Everybody wants to learn how to get free money. So let me just turn off the waiting room here so that we don't have to keep getting people come in the waiting room. You guys could just come right in. I can figure out how to do that. All right, I'll figure it out in a second here. Well, welcome everybody. Let me go ahead and kick things off. My name is Tariq. For those of you guys who don't know me, first time here, I'm the founder of EventHawk. And today we're going to be talking about funding and how to get 0% loans for your party rental business. Now, listen, I said this in the book. Those of you guys who haven't read the book, plug for the Bounce House School book. But the one person that I cannot help here at EventHawk, that we can't help, is somebody who has either no inventory or the wrong inventory. Because marketing is what saved my life. Marketing is what changed my business. But after that, when you're going to market something, you need to have the inventory, right? And for you to have the inventory, you have to have the money. A lot of you guys like me, you start out with one bounce house or two bounce houses, and that's fine. You know, you got to start with where you got to start. But today we're going to talk to you guys about some different ways where you guys can get some money to grow your inventory fast without having to worry about a business loan or a bunch of business documents. If you've ever tried to get a business loan, it is super complicated. You need like years of taxes. And it's like, bro, I just started my business. How? That's the whole point. You're supposed to help me get started. How am I supposed to do that when you want all these tax documents and stuff like that? Well, if you've ever experienced that, then you're going to love today. And also, there are some awesome vendors in this industry who will give you 0% funding. The only catch is you have to spend all your money with them. So I know Tent and Table does it. They're great. I love them. But let's say you want to buy stuff from Tent and Table, then you want to buy stuff from Jump Orange, then you want to buy a dolly, then you want to buy a trailer. You can't do that because they're going to give you the money only to spend the money with them. So with that, I'm super excited to introduce our new partner here at EventHawk. We partnered with some great people that are going to help you get some funding. There's 100 people in this room, so I got to find them so that I can unmute him. Go ahead and raise your hand, Dane. I got to figure out how to do this here. 1 second. Damon, I think if you raise your hand, Damon, in the Zoom, it'll move you up to the front. There it is. All right, give me 1 second, guys. All right, Damon, go ahead and unmute yourself. And boom, perfect.
All right. Looks like we have audio. Yeah, I don't even know how to raise my hand in Zoom. We don't use Zoom, so bear with me. Okay, we should be good to go. Hello. Thanks for having me. My name is Damon. We'll get into a little bit about who I am and what I'm here to do in just a second. I'm going to be totally transparent with you guys. I don't know anything about the party business. I don't know anything about bounce houses, but it looks fun. And obviously a lot of people are very interested in it, and obviously it makes money. So that's awesome. Very excited to be here. I love learning new things. So I never knew this was even a thing until I met with Tariq. It turns out it's a very big thing. So I'm excited to learn more about it. What I do though, and what I know is how to fund any project. That's what I do. I'm a lending broker. I secure funding for everything. And that's why I have the business I have, is that we can secure, and raise funds for, things that the banks would deny, right? Like, let's say, for example, guns and ammunition. If you start a business like that and go to the bank, ask them for a loan, they're going to flat out tell you no every time. Trucking, construction, there's a lot of high risk businesses that they will not fund. I don't know about the party business, frankly. I'm sure that's probably tough to get lending for. Going to the bank, it usually is, like Tariq was saying. If you don't have any statements or cash flow, or if you're just a startup, everybody kind of falls in that niche initially. How do you get money to start? Because to get to cash flow and to get to taxes and 2 years in business, to get those business lines of credit and things like that, how do you get what do you do in that in between time? So that's where we come in. help you get the money for, getting started and scaling. So it looks like Ronnie just said equipment. Exactly. It falls under equipment financing, which we'll discuss in just a second. Let me see if I can share my screen. Now, don't judge me too much. I am not a graphic designer. I put some slides together, so they're probably awful, but I think they'll get the point across. So let me figure out how to.
I did make you co-host, so you should be able to share if you look at the bottom.
Yeah, I got it.
There you go.
All right, we got it now. There we go. Let me open the chat so I can see you guys. Okay. Put this on present. Oh, Zoom toolbar. I don't miss that. All right, let's go present here. Full screen. There we go. Okay. Should be full screen for everybody. Admittedly, now I can't see the chat, but that's okay.
I got you. I'll watch the chat.
Yeah, Tariq will cover my back. So we're going to talk about how to access startup funding with rates as low as 0%, which might sound weird. And that's understandable because not a lot of people know how to do it. So I'm going to do a little bit of, general housekeeping here. Who is this for? It's for you guys, entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, anyone wanting to learn how to leverage credit or OPM, which is other people's money. Anyone wanting to acquire assets and, passive income or not passive income, what you guys are doing, I think falls under active income. And anyone wanting to learn how to really master their finances, master lending, and monetize all of it, which all of what we're going to discuss falls into that category. So a brief overview of the agenda that we're going to get into here is, a little bit about who I am, talking about your finances, credit cleaning and repair, business credit, scaling, lending, how to secure lending, and then some resources that we're going to leave you with to be able to use right after this. So a little bit of backstory on who I am. I have a background in finance and have been running my lending company publicly for about 4 years. We did 7 figures year 1 with no paid advertising, 8 figures year 2, 3, and we're closing out 4 at the same, which kind of is aggravating, but I think we'll get past that this year, this next year. So prior to that, I was actually a fund manager. As a day trader, I managed an investment fund for about 6 years. And then prior to that, I was just a blue collar worker in the steel industry who dropped out of college. And now I'm doing all these big things in finance, which is crazy to me and to a lot of people, but here we are. I've personally acquired over 500,000 in business credit and millions in other OPM, and we'll show you guys exactly how I got started doing that. I've helped thousands of other people overhaul their finances, credit, and acquire funding, and that sounds crazy. Again, it's not an exaggeration. 72,000 active files right now in our CRM, and that's our new CRM. We had 2 other ones before this. Personally helped about 170 other people get into the industry and make a healthy income doing so. And now I help other companies integrate funding solutions into their offers, helping both their businesses and their clients scale, which is exactly what I'm doing here, what I'm going to help you guys do, what I'm helping Tariq do. Over there on the right is just a screenshot of my Instagram, just to show you a little bit about who I am, because you never really know who you're talking to. So I like to be transparent. Okay. So kick this off. A lot of this stuff is going to be pretty basic starting out, really rudimentary, but I like to, just take it from the top to be thorough. Okay. So I'm always a big believer that, you need to have everything. You can't track what you don't know, right? Or excuse me, you can't fix what you don't track, and what isn't tracked, you don't know. That's, more accurate. So I always tell people, write down your goal. What's your credit score? What's your current income? What's your goal income? What are your current expenses? Or do you even know? I do so many financial plans for people, and it blows my mind how many people just have no idea, like what goes in, what comes out, where the credit is, how to read a credit report, and just things like that. Blows my mind. But it's important to make a plan to track, organize, and get all of this into alignment with your goals. Okay. You can't fix what you're not tracking. So what I encourage you to do, if you're not already doing this, if you're already doing this, good for you. But again, we're just being thorough. So if you're not doing that, you should write down all of the following, especially for your business that you're doing here. Your income, your credit card debt, your other debts, your credit score, how many credit cards you have, what the credit limits are on those accounts. Are they personally reporting? Are they reporting to business? You know, things of that nature. It's going to behoove you to pay attention to. Okay. We're going to get a little bit into credit now. And if I'm going too fast, feel free to interrupt. Tarika, let me know. So what is credit? And a lot of you probably are very aware of this, but for the sake of being thorough, your credit score is a risk evaluation for lenders. It's just a risk measurement tool. That's all it is. Okay. And your credit, it determines how risky of a borrower you are, right? It's pretty simple. Your score is broken up into 5 components, all of which combined give you your score. And those components are payment history, amounts owed, length of credit history, your credit mix, and new credit. Okay. Now, if you've ever wondered why you've seen different scores, checking different places, it's because credit bureaus consider, several factors, and they all have their own proprietary algorithm, one that you will never figure out because they don't tell anybody. It's a trade secret that even, we have a rough idea. We have a pretty good idea, but you'll never know exactly what they're looking at. That's them stuff. Different scoring models weigh factors differently, which is, again, why you're going to see a slightly different score when looking at different scoring models. Those algorithms track your financial habits and spit out a score. Okay, so a little bit of good knowledge for you right now is a lot of places that you check your credit are going to show your Vantage score. Okay, that's a cheap score. It's free in a lot of places, and it's good for a rough overview of where your credit is, but that banks and lending institutions do not use Vantage scores. They use, does anybody know? Well, there's only one other one, your FICO score. And specifically on the credit lending side is your FICO 8 bank card score. So if you start breaking down your FICO score, you'll find it's several different FICO scores, and it can get very confusing. So don't get too worked up on it. Just look for your FICO scores. Okay. So we're going to take a look at a couple of credit reports now, just to kind of show you some examples. And, we'd love some feedback as I'm working through this. I'm going to show you, kind of my thoughts on these. And we're going to look at 3 different sets of reports now. And I'm going to point out what's kind of wrong with them. I'm sure this one's probably pretty obvious. You can, see where the issues are. So a bad report, what we're looking at here, can you see my cursor? I think you can. So open accounts, yeah, there's 15 open accounts. Okay, that's good. They have a lot of primaries. Average age is over 2 years, which is good. We want to see a 5-year average, but this is good. Oldest account is 8 years. Now the issue here, they have no lates, no closed accounts, no collections, all that's good. This is the big bummer here, right? The utilization is, well, it's 107%, right? So nobody's going to give you money if they look at your credit and they see that you can't even pay off the available resources that you have, right? It's pretty typical stuff. Over here on the right side, again, very high utilization, good age, good oldest account, good amount of primaries, but 12 accounts late, overutilized, 2 collections. Okay, that's pretty easy to read. That's, pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so a thin profile, now we're getting into stuff that, less and less people know. So a thin profile, so with this, we might have issues with lending. And the reason why, and that might be confusing because you're like, oh, they have a 770 score. They have a 700 plus score. They have no negatives. They have low utilization. Why would they have a problem getting anything? Well, in underwriting, they look, we do underwriting. So when we're doing that, when we're analyzing somebody's finances, when we're looking at their credit reports, the score is just one factor. Okay. I've seen 620 scores get tons of lending, and I've seen 750 pluses get denied. Okay. It's much more than just your score that you need to be looking at. So over here, open accounts, what we mean by a thin profile, they only have 2 primaries, right? They have good age, they have good oldest account, they have good utilization. It's under 30% is what we're looking for on the threshold.
All right, Damon. So does that mean they have 2 credit cards? That's it?
Well, they have two primaries. Yeah. So that could be a personal loan even, but yeah, probably two credit cards in this scenario. So yeah, they have two personally reporting credit cards, not business credit cards. Okay. Not enough or loans, but I'm fairly certain those are credit cards on this particular scenario. And then over here, their total available credit is only 1,300. Okay, so that's another problem. We like to see at least 5 figures on that when we're going into this type of lending. Okay, I'm gonna pause real quick and say that we're talking about a very specific type of lending here, one that you can use for anything. Of course, situation like this, if they had cash flow, if they had multiple years in business, if they had business taxes done, there's a lot of other options, but we're going to talk about a resource that you can specifically use right now. So that's kind of a synopsis of that one over here. Again, very similar situation, great age, great oldest account, very low utilization, only 3 primaries. Now they have a lot of credit limit, but that could be a mix of various other things, other types of credit. We take a deeper look at the report and see if those are actually credit cards, right? We want to see at least 5 figures in available credit on credit cards. Now over here, this one might be confusing. Why is this a great report? It's 746 score, 7 open accounts. We like to see at least 5 primary accounts, average age 10 years, but they also have likely at least 5 figures in personal reporting credit, but their credit is overutilized. So why is this a good report? Because it's got everything else. And utilization is very easy to fix. And we're going to talk about how you can do that without paying it off even. So that's something that we can fix immediately without you having to come out of pocket to do. So that's why we would say that's an excellent report. And then over here, self-explanatory, 5 figures credit, 17 primaries, a little light on the average age, but everything else checks out. Fantastic. So that's like a crash course. I mean, we could sit here and talk about underwriting for probably the next hour. We're not going to do that. So that's a rough overview of things that we look for. And we're going to break it down a little bit more right now. So an ideal credit profile. First of all, if you don't have credit monitoring, you should get some form of it. I use MyFICO. I put all my clients on MyFICO. It's accurate. It's very user-friendly. The interface is easy to navigate. It shows you all the information that you really need to use. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't earn from you guys signing up there. That's just what I personally use. Okay. There's a lot of options for this. At post-COVID, I think it's annualcreditreport.com. They started giving you 2 free 3-bureau reports a year. Okay. So it's totally free. And you can go get a full report there twice a year now. It was once a year prior. But yeah, there's a lot of options for it. Okay. Just make sure you're looking at FICO scores, not just Vantage. So a strong credit profile, for this lending instrument, 720 plus score, 0 to very minimal hard inquiries. We're going to talk about inquiries as well. Don't worry about. Well, let's do it right now. When your credit gets pulled, right? You get soft inquiries, hard inquiries. Hard inquiries, do they damage your score? Yes, they can drop your score by up to 10 or 15%, depending on the scoring model. Okay, now the thing about inquiries is they're very easy to remove. You can remove them in 12 to 24 hours. A lot of people don't know that. Okay, so not something to worry about. 2+ years of credit age, 5+ is ideal. Like I said previously, no derogatory marks, has 3 or more accounts reporting. We like to see 5 or more, and 10,000 or more in personal credit and a good mix of credit. And mix of credit, I'll give you an example. I was a good example of this for many, many years. I was mid 750s. I finally, just as of like this month, I think, got into the 800s. And the reason I haven't been in the 800s for the past couple of years is because I had no installment loans. I bought my house in cash. I bought all my vehicles in cash. So I had no installment loans. So I was actually taking a hit on my credit because of that. I didn't have any mix of credit. I had a lot of great credit card relationships, but that's it. So it's good to have some kind of mix of credit in there. Okay. And then doing so, have you in an excellent position in the eyes of the lenders. Frankly, like any of you with a profile similar to this, I'm sure you know what I mean when they're going to beg for your business. You're going to start getting offers in the mail. You're going to start getting emails. You're going to start getting calls. Hey, you're pre-approved, right? You see it all the time, right? I mean, be careful with that. Don't just accept everything you see, but you know what I'm talking about. They're going to be like, hey, sign up, right? All right. So part of the first part of this process is cleaning and optimization. Okay. You're going to want to reduce utilization, which accounts for 35% of your score. You want to pay down or consolidate into an installment instrument, such as a loan, because in the reason, and I'm going to dive deeper into this in a second, this is a very important practice and we use it all the time. An installment instrument because it doesn't report the same way, right? It's not a revolving credit line. All right. This is one of the first steps to moving debt off your report, which, like I said, we'll discuss shortly. And then credit repair. If anybody's been in credit repair and here, let us know. I know it can be like a love-hate relationship in the internet space because there's reputable people and there's not reputable people. And that's probably true of everything. But the point here is that every item on your credit report can be removed, both the good and bad. You don't want to remove the good in most cases, but every bad mark on your credit can be removed. Late payments, repossessions, evictions, even bankruptcies, collections. Every negative mark on your credit report can be removed. Okay. It's not an overnight process. It usually takes anywhere from 90 to 180 days. So what is that? Yeah, 3 to 6 months is usually the timeline for that, but it's doable. And then inquiry removal is a little note on that. You don't want to dispute inquiries that were pulled for CLIs. And if you don't know what a CLI is, that's a credit limit increase, credit line increase. Okay. And then any inquiry not attached to an open personal account can be easily removed, as well as anything reporting to the business side. And we'll elaborate on that in just a second if that doesn't make sense. Another good habit that you should be in when checking your credit is information cleanup, because I can't tell you how many times I get a letter or you enroll for something over the phone and then you get the paperwork in the mail and your name is spelled wrong or the address is slightly wrong or there's one character off or you check your credit report and there's old addresses on there. Just go clean all those up. Okay. The cleaner your report, the cleaner your personal information, the better your results are going to be across the board with everything lending related. Okay. So just go in there, check it out, make sure there's not variations of your name, make sure there's not any too old addresses or anything like that, phone numbers even. Okay. So the more variables they have to look at, the harder time they're going to have getting you approvals. Okay. So back to moving debt off your report without paying it. So obviously, if you can pay down your debt to under 30% on your credit cards, that's the best route to go if you can pay it. Now, that's not an immediate option for a lot of people. So what do? Right? The first thing you want to do is fix your credit, clean up the information and remove any negative or damaging marks, because that's going to kind of bar you from the next part of this. So you want to do that first. And then we're going to consolidate the debt and we're going to use an installment instrument, which is, any loan to do so, because it doesn't report the same way. So if you pay off your credit cards with a loan, your utilization is going to go to zero because it doesn't report the same way. Okay. It'll affect your DTI, but that doesn't matter for this particular lending instrument. Okay. So you're going to consolidate that any loan. You don't even need to worry about the terms of it. I mean, obviously get the better ones that you can, but it's a very short-lived placeholder is all it is. So the terms don't matter too much. You might make one payment at most before you move on to the next step. Okay. From there, you secure business funding, and anyone can do this, even if you don't have a real business, even if you don't have cash flow, even if you don't have your taxes. Okay. All you need is a business on paper. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's the truth. You open an LLC, you get your EIN, and it can even be registered to your home address. Post-COVID really changed a lot. Pre-COVID, home addresses were kind of and PO boxes and things like that were really frowned on in the lending space. But then obviously everybody was stuck at home. So they kind of loosen that up a little bit. So, file an LLC, even get it registered your home address or office address if you have one, open a business bank account, and that's all you need to do to move on from there. You have a business on paper, and that's all you need. Okay, and then you move the consolidated debt over to the business funding that you just acquired, usually through liquidation, which is pulling cash off cards, without all the cash advance fees or limits or things of that nature. And then that's all there is to it. You moved all your debt off of your credit report, increased your credit score by 35%, and lowered your interest on the debt to a repeatable 0%. And I'm going to say that again, it is repeatable, and it's actually a pretty simple process. So usually there's like a 12 to 18 month term intro APR of 0%, but you can repeat that. Okay. So a little bit more about debt and OPM. There's two types, right? There's equity and debt. You can use other people's money by giving them ownership of whatever you're doing. Usually, if you can avoid that, you want to avoid that. Like if you see the show Shark Tank, that's what they're doing. They're investing for the equity, for royalties, for incredible amounts of interest. That's what that is. Okay. And then you have debt. You can use other people's money while keeping all the equity, and you just pay extra money back in the form of interest or fees, which we can show you how to navigate not having to do that. Okay. And then secured versus unsecured. Secured is just any collateralized debt. Like for example, your mortgage on your home, that's secured, right? Because the home is the collateral. Your auto loan, secured debt. The vehicle is the collateral. Okay. Usually has lower interest because it's lower risk for the bank or the lender or the institution, because if you default, they're just going to take your stuff. All right. It's pretty simple. Unsecured is better for you, lowers your risk, but increases the risk to the lender. And because of the increase to the lender, you see higher interest. What are the credit card rates at right now? They're pretty high. It's because it's high risk for the lender. Traditionally higher interest, but like we said, there's ways around it. All right. So now getting into the old PG, non-PG stuff. PG is personal guarantee, non-PG is non-personal guarantee. All cash credit requires a personal guarantee. You may have seen a TikTok guru or video on YouTube that said, hey, I can get you $1 million in business funding non-PG. Okay, that's BS. Does not work like that. Okay. All cash credit requires a personal guarantee. It doesn't mean it reports to your personal credit report. It just means they're checking out the person they're extending the resources to. Okay, which is fine. Right. And then down there a little bit more, immediate interest bearing unsecured lines traditionally have higher limits, right? They're going to be more generous with that. And why would that be? Because they want you to run it up. They're going to give you a lot of money because they want you to use it and not pay it off immediately. Because why? Because they're making money on interest. That's their business model. So they're going to give you more funds, right? So it just to verify that, you can go check any major bank's website, any business lending institution, and you're going to see some kind of literature like this all over the place, right? These are business lending instruments. Why are they checking credit, right? They're checking your credit, right? Now there is non-PG lending instruments, but for your use case, it's not really applicable. Okay. So kind of blast through this a little bit. Let's talk about foundations and building. So if you have a thin profile, what do you do? Well, or if you just went through credit repair, that's another thing. Maybe you defaulted on a bunch of stuff. You had to get it wiped off your report, which is good. Now you have no negatives, but you have a very thin report. You're kind of rebuilding. So secured cards, great. And a secured card is, if nobody knows what that is, I'm sure people know, but for the sake of transparency, that's basically, you want a $500 limit card, for example. You give the bank $500. They give you a credit card with $500 limit, right? So it's collateralized with the cash. Student cards, entry-level cards, just like that. And then authorized user trade lines, if anybody's familiar with those, they can be beneficial. It's basically piggybacking off of somebody else's credit. It doesn't impact them at all. Let's say your Aunt Mary has a 15-year-old credit line with perfect payment history and a huge limit. Okay, should just add you on there as an authorized user. Doesn't mean you can use the card, but all of that age and perfect payment history is now reporting to your credit report. It can augment it a little bit. Okay, it's not a miracle solve all, but it can be beneficial. It doesn't help, utilization issues. It does not report as a primary, and it doesn't cover up negatives, but it can help augment a thin profile. Okay, and then of course, when you're stacking up your cards and developing, adding depth to your profile, you're gonna want to use your cards. Don't just lock them in the safe and then just leave them there, right? Though your limits will get lowered or they'll get closed. So what I like to do is I'll just throw a subscription on them, put them on auto pay and forget about them. Like a $10 a month subscription or something, whatever, your Netflix. Okay, and then your CLIs request for limit increases every 3 to 6 months. Okay, make sure you're paying down your balances. Now, don't request when it's maxed out or anything like that. They're gonna be like, well, you're not paying off what you already have. So yeah, good habits, good habits. All right.
Before we go on, Damon, just a quick check-in for the chat. Are you guys, is this been helpful for you guys? Let me know in the chat. I see a lot of questions. Your team's been awesome helping answer a lot of the questions. So we're
That's great.
we got Lane and Lamar and Matthew and Trey. Thank you guys. But in the chat, tell me, is this valuable for you guys? Should we keep going or should we just kick Damon out? Let me know.
We're still talking about basic stuff.
All right. I see Latoya says, love this. Lane says, info is great. Keep going, keep going. All right, keep going. All right. Just making sure everybody's awake. So if Rosangel says keep going, all right, perfect. We're good.
If the chat approves, we will proceed.
So
a little bit more on the last slide is, we're not going to, so secured subprime credit unions, for example, great rates, mediocre benefits, regional banks and national banks have, average rates based on your credit ability and great benefits, Amex and Chase, things of that nature. Credit unions are slept on a lot, if I can use some hip lingo. They're often overlooked, right? But they have great benefits, great resources, and great rates, right? They want the business because their competitors are the majors, Amex, Chase, US Bank, things like that. So definitely check out your, the smaller banks, your credit unions, okay? And then over here is just how to build that ideal profile that I just explained to you, 5 to 7 products with great benefits and terms. Get at least one 5-figure limit. 20K is great, 10K is good. On at least one of them, leverage them against one another, right? A CLIs. So let's say you have one high limit card and one really low limit card, or you're applying for a new card and they give you really low approval. You go over to them and say, hey, this really doesn't make sense for me to accept because, and then you can show them your other line and be like, well, listen, I got X amount from this bank and I need at least that, right? Otherwise it doesn't make sense for me to do business with you. So a lot of people don't know that you can negotiate that. You can also negotiate your interest rates. A lot of people just take what they get, push back a little, you can. All right. And that down there is, retention offers, negotiate interest rates and waive annual fees. You can waive all of your annual fees, for example. All right. All right. Let's talk about some business credit. Let's get into that. What's your EIN? I mentioned that a little bit ago. It's the social security number of your business. All right. Your DUNS number, your Dun and Bradstreet. A lot of people like to reference that. It's actually rarely used by tier 1 banks now. So I really wouldn't even worry about it. You can monitor this stuff through Experian Business and Equifax Business, or use nav.com to monitor both. Now, if you wanted to build out some business credit, which for your guys' use cases probably is something that you don't need to do at all, but you can do that with, a trade line service. You just, pay something like $20 a month, something like that. They'll put a business trade line on your report. And that really only makes sense for collateralized business lending. Okay. For you, for what we're here talking about, for your guys' use case, don't even worry about it. Small Business Financial Exchange is another reporting network for this stuff. LexisNexis, they report everything. They know where you were born, the time you were born. what you did on your birthday. They know everything about you. Okay. Repos, evictions, criminal records. If you got a parking ticket, that's all in LexisNexis. Okay. So it's kind of a scary thing. It really is. If AI ever gets into LexisNexis, we're all doomed. All right. But you should get in there and, you know, poke around and check, just see what's on your report, because a lot of people don't even know. And then net 30, 60, and 90. Don't even worry about that stuff. It's a waste of time for unsecured business credit, but it's a good use of time for any collateralized lending. I know Tariq had mentioned a couple of vendors for resources specific to this. I don't know that that's collateralized, but it may be. Tariq, is that?
The funding, you talking about the funding that's already
Yeah,
there?
like for example, if they extend you resources to do this business and you default on it, do they just take the equipment?
Good question. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think, but I do think it was like a business loan. I did have to provide like 2 years of taxes and things like that.
Okay, then it's probably not collateralized, but it'd be a good thing to check into at least. So let's talk about funding, the fun stuff. How much funding can you get on the consumer side? 100 to 150K. I've seen up to 500K on that, but you want to be careful though, because you'll start getting denials for reason of too much available credit. As crazy as that sounds. If I'd love to hear if anybody's seen that denial. It's not something you see a lot. I mean, I've seen a lot just simply because of my line of work, but it's kind of an annoying one. You're trying to get more resources and they say, no, I know you have a perfect credit report, but we're not going to give you any more because you already have a ton. Okay. So that's on the consumer side. The business side, the sky is the limit, right? Again, recommended requirements. We already went through this 720 score, 0 to minimal hard inquiries. Now, to be specific on that, we have a threshold of 9 inquiries in a 6-month period that is optimal, and that's 3 per bureau to be specific. Okay, that's what we look for. No derogatory.
I gotta stop here, Dan. So are you saying that a regular person, like people here who are just starting in the business, that they have good credit, like you showed, can get up to $150,000, 0% interest?
Well, they can get more than that. That's just on the consumer side, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you only need a business on paper. You don't need an office building and all that.
You don't need like years of taxes to show and documents and all that. You can just get that.
No,
Like,
no, no. It's a wild game, I'll tell you that. So yeah, you already know the recommended requirements. We went through it. If you're in that position, you just, get an LLC, EIN, which I assume you all do for this business, and get a business checking account, and you're ready to roll. And yeah, that's when the exciting stuff happens. So here's kind of an overview of the process, right? You're gonna want to create depository relationships. All right. So some of them actually, some of the tier ones banks, even credit unions are notorious for this. They won't even lend you resources unless you have a relationship with them. And that doesn't need to be an old relationship. It doesn't need to be a large relationship. You just open an account, stick a little money in it if you can. Sometimes you don't even need to. And now you have a relationship. That's all that means. Okay. And then from there, you assess the need. What do you need funding for? Assess your qualification, build your funding plan, and then execute the funding plan. Okay. Now, what funding can be used for? If it's unsecured, typically anything you want. I've used business credit cards for every purchase in my life for the past like 8 years, and those are business credit cards. Okay, not personal ones. So if it's unsecured, you can use it for anything you want. And then liquidation is a process of pulling cash off cards. Let's say you need $20,000 in cash to buy a bounce house or something, or to send via a wire transfer or whatever it may be. Liquidation is how you do that with a card. Let's say you have a $50,000 card with Chase. You need that $20,000 off of there. You're just going to invoice that card, pull the cash off of there. It settles in your account. Now you can put a down payment on a house. You can buy the bounce house, and it's still at 0% interest for that term, which is repeatable. Okay, and then you can
without having to pay the cash advance fee.
What's that?
without having to pay the cash advance fees that they charge.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the cash advance limits are usually like anywhere from 500 to 3 grand tops.
Yeah.
So not only that, you're going to pay like an atrocious amount of money in fees. So this is how you avoid that and get all the money off the cards. Now, you can do that yourself. I don't recommend it. It's a good way to get your accounts shut down. So don't do it. We've seen a lot of horror stories there. And then you can do this every 3 to 6 months, right? And that time frame is based on the inquiry and account aging timeline. All right. So that's a like 1,000-foot view of what that process looks like. So to break that down a little bit more is, you remove negative marks on your credit, you pay down the balances, consolidate and move if you're overutilized. Okay. If you already have all that taken care of, you open your LLC, you just need the EIN and probably your articles of operation, your operating agreement. Get your business bank account relationships, and then you get business funding. You with the tier one bank specifically, you're going to want to work with people called relationship managers. Okay, that's a role inside the bank, and they got a lot more pull. And this is why you don't necessarily want to just go online and submit applications, right? Because there's specific information that you want to put in the right hands, and this is the difference between a $5,000 credit card and a $75,000 credit card. Okay. Is that kind of stuff. All right. So this is just a couple of examples of people that I've recently worked with. 188.5 thousand in funding over here, 120K over here, just to show you that, yep, we do this. We do this all the time. We show people how to do this, and the resources are there for the taking if you just need the process and the information. Another thing people do wrong when filling out applications, and this is again why you shouldn't do this all on your own, is they'll put $0 on their revenue because they either didn't read everything or they just didn't understand or somewhere in between, or they'll put a low number right there and they'll get denied or they'll get really low limits. It's completely legal to put a projection of your revenue on your application up to 500,000. I mean, you can go past that, but in excess of that, they may ask you for supporting documentation, right? And then if that's the case, you just got to make it make sense. Have a story, elevator pitch, or speech prepared. Can't just use consulting. You got to, figure out what you're doing, prepare it ahead of time. And you're making a case of why they should extend you capital. And if you figure out how to do that, it's just rinse and repeat. And you can just run this all the time. All right. And kind of what I alluded to previously is doing this in a specific order with specific information. This is why every Joe Schmo can't just go and do this and get hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Because in theory, you can, but you're not gonna get the results, right? So you have to do this in a specific process with specific information for best results. And having an existing relationship with the bank is almost always going to get better results. And that doesn't mean, again, like I said, a long relationship. Just go open an account, stick some money in there if you can, and you're good to go. All right. And then on top of that, there's a specific sequence you should follow and information to use for those applications. You'll want to open some accounts before attempting others, or it could bar you from getting one or either of the accounts, or just end up with low limits. And a little bit more specific on that is some things report to some bureaus and some don't. Some report to all three, right? So you want to be mindful of where those inquiries are landing. And we know exactly where they land. That's why we structure this process in the way that we do. Okay. Now, like I said, if you don't have a business, if you have no revenue, if you have bad credit, if you've been denied or have inquiries, if your credit file is thin, if you don't know, what to do, if you've never done this before, don't worry, you're in good hands. We see it all. We see it all every day. I guarantee there's not a situation with anybody on this call that I haven't seen worse. Okay. And been able to help them get through it. So you're in good hands. All right. So what's next? To kind of wrap up here is that's totally up to you. Our lending inventory ranges anywhere from small startups and, unsecured lending, like probably what you guys would be using, all the way up to commercial ground up constructions. We just did a lending deal on oil drilling equipment recently. It was a multi-million-dollar lending deal. Pretty exciting stuff. Mergers and acquisitions and everything in between. So if you need funding for your business or project, just I guess, comment funding or message Tariq and he'll get you sorted out. He's working with us and we're extending all of our resources to him and through him to you guys to help you, scale what you're doing here and make it successful, because the number one reason most businesses fail, I'm sure everybody knows, is lack of capital, lack of resources. So there's an easy fix to that. And that's why we're in business, is helping you guys do that. So if you already knew all that information, then you're ahead of a lot of people. And I hope at the very least you just learned something useful. Okay. I hope I didn't waste your time. So I appreciate the time. Thanks, Tariq, for having me. And it was a pleasure.
Definitely did not waste time and did not disappoint. There's still 111 people, and this is insane, guys, all the way till the end. And the chat is filling up with people commenting funding. So you did something right, man. I'm lucky to get their attention for this long. So here, let me show you guys what we're doing. I know we got some questions, but honestly, your team killed it in the chat answering this. So let me just show you guys. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. So let me share my screen here. Anybody who is watching on YouTube or Facebook, comment funding, and I'll get this to you guys. I'm going to share my screen, but if you're live here, I'll share the link with you right now. And I just want to show you guys how awesome Damon and his team are. So we built this page together, and man, I just love how simple it is. So I'll send the link right now, but I just want to show you guys how easy it is to get started. No social security number, none of that, just to at least get you in the right direction. Because I don't know if you guys caught this, but even if you have bad credit or you need help with your, repairing your credit or getting started, these guys they do it all. So I'm going to go through the process right now with you guys. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
You guys see this, David? All right, I'm gonna put something crazy. I want $100,000. Feeling lucky. What is your personal income? I'm making 50 to 100K, and I do have an established business. I didn't even have to click next. This thing just clicked next for me. Let's say I'm making 20 to 50K a month. My credit score is 650 to 710. Credit limit, like Damon said, you do have to know these numbers. They're not asking this stuff just because they want to be nosy, because what Damon and his team do is they're going to represent you guys to these banks. They need to have this info. Otherwise, we're going to waste everybody's time. So let's say I have 15K and I don't have any, or let's just say, I had a late payment in the last 5 years. Done. That's it. Let's get you funded. Do you want to use self-service or work with a personal advisor? Name, email, phone number. That's it. It literally takes less than 60 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you guys. It's funding.eventhawk360.com. I'll share it in the chat here. You guys can fill it out right now. It takes 60 seconds. And with that, obviously you guys have a fee, Damon, and we're a partner. So obviously we get, some kickback or whatever, but what does that fee look like? A few people are asking about that.
So that's our cap is 10% of the funding collected. That's our cap. Okay. And the variance there depends on lending instrument. So I would love to charge 10% on a $5 million loan. I can't ethically do that. So there's kind of a sliding scale there. But yeah, it's usually like for an unsecured lending instrument, like I imagine you guys are going to be using, is probably going to be around 10%.
And then that's something that they could write off, obviously.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, yeah.
Now, one thing I really wanted to go through this process myself, but I love the ethics behind this company, because the first thing Damon told me when we started talking is, Tariq, don't just start telling people to get free money, because the worst thing you could do is get money just to get money. You have to have a plan for this money. If you guys know me, if you guys follow me, I already got 50 inflatables. I want to sell my stuff. I want to downsize. But for those of you guys who are just starting, you guys already have Event Hawk. You guys already have marketing. You have a website. You're like, Tariq, if I had 50 inflatables, I'd sell out every weekend, but I only have 3. I believe you. This is a great market to be in. And if you read the book, the demand is way higher than the supply. So if you did spend $10, $20, $30,000 this year, you can easily double that this year alone, because it's just such a great industry that really nobody knows about. So if that's you, if you have a plan for what to do with the money and you know what inventory to buy, don't go buying a rock wall or some weird stuff, or what was that one that everybody went crazy about? The hippos. Something weird like that. Just buy the standard stuff, the water slides and bounce houses, the tents that everybody rents, the stuff that's already in high demand, the tables and chairs. That's great. But somebody like me, honestly, I'm tempted just to get the money. I wanted to go through this process just so I could see what it's like. But Damon gave me that advice. Like, Tariq, don't do it if you don't have a plan for this money to make you more money, because Damon,
and if I can interject, there's a lot of reasons why. Logistics reasons is, a clock starts. you know, when that money is extended, right? You know, your terms start counting, like you have 12, 18 months on a repeatable basis, but there's still a clock, right? So that's one thing to be mindful of. And then another thing is just, you know, human nature. You know, if somebody has access to a ton of money with no real need for it, they're going to start doing silly things. We're all guilty of it, myself included, right? So just, you know, get a plan in place prior to going for funding.
Very well said. Yeah, I'd definitely go buy a car or something, or a big TV. All right, go ahead and raise your hands or just put it in the chat. Money for marketing. Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you, Mr. Archer. Been a while. But yeah, that's what's great about it. You could use the money to get a new website for marketing, ad spend for, you don't have to necessarily spend it with one vendor. Because if I was a vendor and it was my money that I was lending you, I would say, hey, you have to spend that money with me if you're going to get 0%. That makes sense. But that's where the benefit is of working with somebody like Damon here and us, is that you can use that money for whatever you want. Marketing, more inventory, you name it. What's the origination fee? Not sure what that is. Is that you know what that is?
We discussed it.
Okay, gotcha. Someone is about to start casino party rentals with the money. All right, go John. What else? What other questions? Again, I think your team did a great job. So here's the big question. So obviously these are what's cool about this is you're getting a credit card, and this is, as I was talking to people about this, they were like, well, a few people mentioned, well, I could do that myself. I could just go to the bank. And you did explain this well, but just for those who don't like looking at slides, what's the difference between me going to the bank and getting a 0% credit card, which a lot of us can do, versus you doing that on my behalf?
I mean, so in theory, you can. I'm not saying it's impossible. I like to use the analogy or metaphor of, you know, real estate. Could you theoretically buy or sell a home without an agent and not know anything about the industry? Yeah. Are you going to get the results you probably want? Probably not. So, and then more than that is, you know, like, for example, that realtor just has access to information processes, back doors, and, you know, inside connections that you just do not. And you know, specific blueprints of how to navigate that landscape. That's the advantage there. I always tell people, I'm like, hey, listen, you know, you're welcome to try. And then they do. And then they come back 2 months later and say, hey, I messed up. I need your help. How many? But I see Lamar is in here. He's one of my partners. How many times have we seen that happen? So, and then I would just, I'm not trying to deter you away from it, but you know, the reality is you only get so many attempts at this. So if you exhaust those and get denied or get no resources at all, then you're kind of, you know, you're not in a good spot. You don't have a lot of options anymore.
And
I saw
you probably can't get the amount of funding that you could get with what you guys. Right?
No. I saw a good question. Is there a UCC tied to the loan? The ones that you guys specifically are probably going to be utilizing the most, no. But in some instances, on some instruments, yes, there is. And then what do you mean by a repeatable basis? So if there's an 8 to, I think the longest I've seen is 15 or 16 months, 0% APR introductory term, that is repeatable. You can reset that. That's another thing a lot of people don't know.
Is there anybody you can't help that you're like, hey, don't bother contacting me if they have a 0 credit score or they're just starting out?
No. We like to, you know, tell our staff, we just did another hiring round, hired 5 new people, and we tell them, you know, everybody's a client, because, you know, it doesn't matter what your credit situation is right now. It doesn't matter how overutilized you are right now. We've seen it all. We have processes and solutions for it all. And no, there's nobody that we can't help.
Love it.
Unless you simply don't want to be helped. I mean, we do see that. Or if you just, you know, don't do what we recommend or suggest, then I mean, that happens too. But yeah.
So I dropped the link in the chat, and again, for anybody watching recording, just drop the word funding and I'll send it to you. So if they fill it out and then it turns out that are you guys going to run their credit and like screw everything up and be like, oh man, you're screwed, you need credit repair? Or do you guys look at what they put out in the form first and say, based on what you've told us, we think you're going to get denied. We should probably talk about credit repair first.
Yeah. There's going to be a consultation there. And on that note, I know there's the option for the self-service portal there, and we put that just for your guys' convenience, just because we know some people don't like talking to other people. Usually I'm one of them. Today I'm one of them because I'm very underslept. I'm kind of a cranky guy today. So we offered that solution for you guys. Although I do recommend working with an advisor on my team. Okay. You're going to have a more tailored and personal approach. And then I didn't answer your question. What did you ask? I totally lost it.
No, it was just that will you guys
Run
will
their
you
No.
based on the answers, or will you let them run their credit first?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to go initially based off of their answers. And if they just, if you're absolutely not fundable based on that, yeah, you're going to be recommended to go into a credit repair consultation. Nothing is done on either side without a consultation. Okay. We're going to, with a real person. And then they'll take a deeper look at what's going on. Same thing on the funding side. You get on a call with an advisor, they take a deeper look at the reports and all of that stuff and discuss it with you before anything is done. So nobody's just going to be messing with your stuff without your consent.
Got it. Before we wrap up, for those of you guys who know, I'm very cautious with who I work with. So before we did any of this, I extended a beta test to a few guys. Who here has already been through the beta test? Raise your hand. I want to just kind of get some feedback from you guys on the process, because I was very impressed with how responsive these guys were. Very much like a vet hawk. I love, they'll text you right away. They'll hound you. They'll call you. Go ahead. We got Tom. We got Rosario. Don't be shy. Share your feedback real quick. Tom, do you want to share just how the process was? Whether you got funded or not is irrelevant, but just if you want to talk a little bit about how was your experience with Damon's team here? I did ask Lamar and Tom. I gave you guys permission to unmute yourselves. Everybody's shy today. Rosario? Unmute yourself, Rosario. You have the best. This guy has the best accent, bro. Go ahead, Rosario. Let's hear it. Let's hear you sing.
Yes. So I tried and it was great. It was easy, pretty much. The form that you make, it just I just need to fill that up, and then I have some part that I have document, and then for a few hours later, someone called me back and then explain and go over it, and then see what option we have, and they will tell you whether you qualify or not, and then let's say if you don't qualify, they will give you advice on what you need to do next, and then set up a time frame, and then it will come back, and then we need to talk about it later, for period of certain period of month. So yeah.
Thank you, Tom. Meet Damon in the back. He'll slip you your $20.
Yeah.
Hey, Tyreek, if I could add to Damon's answer to your question, and to add on top of Tom's response, I think that's who just spoke. It looked like that's who was unmuted. So guys, when you fill out the application, we do not run your credit when you fill out that form. That form is essentially to lead you guys to us to schedule a consultation with our team. Okay. So what we do is we run an assessment based on your answers that you provide to us, and then based on your consumer report. We do not pull your credit. We do not add inquiries to your report. We will either have you guys pull your own credit, which you can do for free, or you can use one of the credit monitoring services. I think Damon mentioned MyFICO earlier. MyFICO is top tier. It's pretty pricey, but it's the best credit monitoring service out there. I have an account with them. Once we analyze your profile, then we ask you questions about your business, about your entity, about your LLC. Are you in business? Have you started? How long have you been in business? Are you making any money? Are you cash flowing? Is that money going through a business checking account? Are you filing taxes? Are you not filing taxes? We do a full assessment and determine exactly where you are at right now. And then based on that assessment, we put what we call as a funding plan together to essentially take you to the next steps of securing funding. Now, the goal of this call was about 0% interest business financing, right? That's what we were talking about. But as Damon mentioned in the presentation, we have a full lend box, is what we call it, of lending resources that we can tap into no matter what situation you're in. Now, for us, guys, it's in your best interest as well as ours. We want to get you the best lending products available on the market. What are the best lending products? Those are products with interest rates as low as 0% interest or just low interest. We're not in the business of putting people in subprime loans or anything that's going to hurt their business. We want to help you. We want to make sure you get capital at the cheapest prices at the best rate so you can leverage that capital to go and start, grow, or scale your business. But every time anyone fills out a form, we do an assessment, we do a consultation. We let you guys know based on our experience, our strategies, our resources, what you qualify for. We put a plan together, and then it's up to you guys if you like to proceed with us or not. We're not aggressive people that are going to be calling you 5 times a day to get you to work with us. We let you know what needs to be done, and we're more than happy to assist. If people want to go and kind of do things on their own, then we give them some advice, and hey, it's no problem.
And
But,
a little bit more on that note, I'm glad you brought that up, Lamar, is types of lending. Just like any business, there is predatory people out there. Okay. And so just on that note, like for example, I don't even allow our staff to offer MCAs or anything of that nature. If anybody's familiar with what a merchant cash advance is, very terrible lending instrument. It has a use case, but it's not very useful for most people. Factoring is different. We'll talk about that probably another call. That's not quite that. My point is, could I have made millions more selling crap lending to people over the last couple of years? Yeah, but I'm not doing it. And the reason why is a lot of our clients remain our clients for years. I mean, a lot of our clients, came on since our inception, and they continue to work with us for, other restructuring, more resources, whatever. And you don't do that by doing anything that's not in their best interest, right? So we always make sure, and if you are, you coming to the table with an idea, hey, I think this might be a good, and we genuinely think that will not be beneficial, or, that might, be the opposite of that for you, we're going to tell you and advise you against that. So we just, we like to have long-term relationships with our clients, and that means doing what's best for you, making it make sense for you.
I love that. Love that. And I've seen that already you guys will see that just from interacting with them. And that's really why we're all in with them. I did a lot of research on these guys before partnering up with them. There's a lot of, like you said, man, all over Instagram, TikTok, and the reviews that they have and all that is really great. So super excited for everybody's 2025 with this. Any final questions before we wrap up and let Damon get some sleep?
I think Rosario raised his hand.
Rosario, go ahead, Rosario.
No, I just want to say that I haven't talked to Ivan Molina. So he told me to wait until the next month because I have 2 credit cards and I got them over the 30%. So like right now, almost in like 50% spend. So I had to go down to the 30% spend. So that way I can get my better credit. Like right now it's like 10, like 710, 715. So I want to go to 750, 760. And then that way I can get a better deal or better money. So, but I got everything ready.
That's great. So that's what Rosario is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that he applied for funding and they said, hey, we don't think you're ready for funding right now. Were you charged anything for that advice? I'm honestly asking. I don't know. No charge. So no charge. They told him go pay off some of these credit card, move some things, and then come back so that we can get you a better deal. And that's why I'm really excited to work with these guys. So thank you, Damon, Lamar, and the whole team for taking care of people and really having the right ethical boundaries here, because you're absolutely right. There are a lot of sharks out there.
Yeah. Well, we want to be here for a long time, so, and we've done that so far, 4 years in, still a great reputation and many more years to come.
Thank you. Well, this has been really, really great. I hope we get to do this again. If you guys want to learn more, let me know in the chat if we should invite Damon again and the team. I always like to ask this question, or if it should be a one-hit wonder. Let's hear in the chat if you guys want a part 2 sometime in the near future here, maybe about something more specific. Thank you guys. I think you guys did really great. John says absolutely. Liz says yes, please. Some more responses coming in. Yeah,
I'm sure everybody can imagine that it's pretty impossible to discuss all of this on just this one call. So there, you know, this is just a very 1,000-foot view of everything. We'd love to dissect it more with you guys whenever you want.
Yeah, I'd love to learn more about the whole CLI. I mean, I got a bunch of notes here, like you said, the 3 to 6 months, like you said, how often should you, how much should you wait before you run credit again? The repeatable thing, the misspellings. I use Credit Karma. I have a lot of other questions, but we're out of time, so we'll definitely schedule something else maybe in the near future here, depending on what everybody on the questions and all that. But thank you guys again. I'll put the link one last time here. Once we end this Zoom, you will lose the link, so please copy that link. I shared it one last time here. So go ahead and copy that link or reach out to me on Facebook or message the Event Hawk page to get that on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're watching this. Anything else you guys want to wrap up with, Damon?
No, you guys can circle back with Tariq for anything you need, and he has access to all of our resources for you guys.
Getting tons of applications here, so you guys are going to be busy with our people for a little while.
Oh, we have a full staff for a reason.
They do, and they're very responsive. One thing, if you guys know me, one thing that I hate is working with companies that take forever to respond. I don't care if you respond and just tell me hang tight. Just don't leave me on red for a while. So these guys do that. They're great. They're textable, which I love. You guys know I hate email. So thank you guys for being awesome. For those of you guys who missed the beginning, I'll get the recording. It's on the Event Hawk Facebook page right now. We'll be on YouTube and everywhere else here within the next week or so. Have an amazing night. Thank you, Damon and the team. Thank you guys, Party Rental people here for joining, and we'll see you guys same time next week.